You're listening to Character Crusade.
Welcome, everybody, to Character Crusade Podcast. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
And Matt is not with us tonight, but that's okay. We're going to do listener mail tonight. It's going to be a big night filled with questions, answers, and probably some befuddlement, I would think.
Oh, all sorts of befuddlement.
Yes. So we have that to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Yes. As you can see, we've got a giant cinnamon roll in the studio tonight, a sweet roll.
Nice. I like sweet rolls.
So, I'm glad you're all with us tonight. Welcome to the show. This is, number 43?
43,
yes.
Correct.
Yes. We are counting the panel as number 42. So this is number 43. Can't believe we made it to 43 episodes of this podcast. That is freaking amazing, considering how dicey it can be sometimes for us to get together. Somehow, for over a year and a half now,
we've managed to make it work.
We've managed to get together and actually see each other every 2 weeks, which has been great for the podcast, but I would say great for our friendship as well.
It hasn't hurt.
It hasn't hurt. Before that, we hardly saw each other at all. The Minneapolis and St. Paul metro area is pretty sprawling, and we seem to all live in opposite ends of it
Pretty much.
From one another. So that's just the way it is. This location where we record here is centrally located, so that works out pretty good. Gets us together every couple of weeks, which is way better than it was before that. We hardly ever saw each other. So
No, rarely, actually.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yeah. All good.
Yep. So Matt is busy. He's not going to be joining us. He will be missed. However, he'll be back with us for the next podcast,
Yep.
So fear not.
So with Matt being gone, safe to say, if something goes wrong, it's because Matt wasn't here to fix it.
Yep.
So
Yep. Keep that in mind, everyone.
It's all
right?
on Matt's shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know that yet, but I think
Yep.
he can probably just, assume that.
Yep. If you need to get in touch with Matt and let him know how badly he screwed up this episode, you can do that on the Facebook page, which Matt is responsible for taking care. No, please be nice to Matt.
Be nice. Be nice.
Yeah.
Remind him he's got one job, but be nice.
I know. He's not here because he's away on business. It's not his fault. And we love him dearly and we miss him. So, but we seem to be doing okay technically right now. This is good.
That is good.
Yep. Knock on wood. Let's hope it stays that way. So because it's just Joe and I tonight, we aren't going to be paying any special attention to the chat. We can't do that and sort of engage in discussion at the same time.
Right.
So feel free to chat amongst yourselves. We'll probably take a break somewhere in the middle. And then later on in the show, if people want to stick around and we've got a little extra time, we'll do some more interaction. We'll, take some questions or comments or just general chatter or whatever. So, but for tonight, really our focus is on Crusader mail. and we're going to jump right into some mail that we've gotten through the website. If you're interested in sending us messages, the best way to do that is to go to charactercrusade.com, and you will find many opportunities there to send us messages. Just about every landing page on the site contains a link to our comment form. So feel free to send us comments, feedback, whatever you like. If you've got role-play quandaries, questions about the game, ideas you want to float by us, all that stuff, go ahead and send it in. We've been accumulating questions for a while now.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done any kind of a
Right.
Listener mail segment. So
Yeah, exactly.
we've got a few in the bag.
Yeah. We got a few queued up, and we are going to try and address some of those tonight. I think we've probably got 5, 6, maybe 7, something like that we have selected from the mailbag that we're going to review tonight. But before we do that, real quickly, we're going to just give a little update on the tour information, where we are with the virtually immersive tour. So tonight, obviously, we are broadcasting from the Winking Skeever, and ladies and gentlemen, we have only one stop left on the virtually immersive tour.
Almost over already.
I know. It's hard to imagine. But it is definitely overpowered, lore-friendly, and mostly immersive. And we've been on this tour for a while now. We've hit a lot of really cool locations. There have been some that we've changed, and then when we did the panel discussion, we basically cut the Sleeping Giant because of the panel discussion.
Yep.
But I would argue that panel discussion is one of the more interesting and exciting things we've done on the podcast so far, and we plan to do some of those again. So just so you know, the next podcast and live stream will be on the 19th of December, and then that will be our last podcast for 2016. And then we'll be rejoining you in 2017. And the virtually immersive tour will be over as of January, but we will be live streaming still. We're changing up our format a little bit. We've discussed that in previous episodes. So just be prepared for that. Okay, so what do you think, Joe? Are we ready to kind of dive into some of this stuff?
Probably ready as we'll ever be.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so what we've done is as we said, we pulled some things out of the mailbag, and we're going to just kind of alternate going down these. Now, we have tried to review them, give them a cursory review to begin with, just so that we know, what's a question versus what's a comment or feedback.
Right.
We really want to use the podcast to address questions, because that's where all the good ideas come from and all the good discussion evolves from.
Right.
So if you've left us, things like feedback on the podcast or, some other categories of feedback, don't be surprised if we don't address those. We're going to be looking specifically at questions. We've given them a cursory review just to make sure we know what we're going to put into the podcast, but we haven't given a lot of thought to our answers. The idea was to really just have this thing go organically and sort of be spontaneous. Mm-hmm. So we have not reviewed these or put down any sort of prefab answers, if you will. So this is going to be sort of all off the cuff. We apologize in advance for
straight from the cuff.
Yeah. So let's take a look. Joe, do you want to take the first one, or should I take the first one?
I can give a shot at reading out here.
All right, we've got 6 total that we're going to cover.
Okay, so this comes from Henson, and I'm going to try to paraphrase down to the meat of the question here.
Okay.
Do you retcon, revise, or reinvent specific character concepts from game to game within the Elder Scrolls series?
Okay. So, do
we want to go a little bit more? So basically, I always find myself coming back to this archetype in his example of Battle Mage. Going back to this archetype after going around the horn of ideas for a while. Just curious if you've ever had a concept that you come back to for the different games or the different Elder Scrolls series games.
Okay.
So do you have a concept that you kind of find yourself falling back onto, or
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm fairly proud of the fact that I don't feel as if I have a particular character archetype that I fall back on frequently. I think for me the big challenge is making sure that I have fresh new ideas for things like character background and psychological profile and stuff like that. What I find is it's very easy, I think, in Skyrim to play different character types. People talk a lot about, well, I keep defaulting to the archer. Well, you can put certain rules in place that will keep you from doing that.
right?
What's harder to do is to keep from playing the archer with a vendetta. You know, and then playing the assassin with the vendetta and the mage with the vendetta and the priest that has, by the way, a vendetta.
Yeah,
right.
I think this is kind of at the heart of the question here. Is you know, I think everyone kind of does lapse into old familiar, comfortable territory, but I think if you're cognizant of that, like you've said, you can build around that and maybe do some of the similar things that are, you know, comfortable, but not always in the same way.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the struggle that I see.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I used to almost always fall back on the big tank type of character. So, you know, it for me personally, it was either falling back into the tank or the mage, you know, either one end of the spectrum. But, you know, over the years, you develop ways to try to mingle the two. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, Henson is coming at this also from the perspective of someone who's played previous Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah, I believe he stated that he started with Oblivion.
Yes. So both Joe and I come to the Elder Scrolls universe at Skyrim. I mean,
pretty much. I mean, I have Oblivion, but I played it like maybe that much.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I haven't played it as much as I would like to, or Morrowind for that. I mean, I played Morrowind too.
Yeah.
I mean, my oldest son played Oblivion a lot more than I did.
Did he?
He actually cracked open the creation kit a little bit when it first came out.
Okay, cool.
I don't think he really got very far. But he was more curious than anything. But
yeah. So, I mean, I think the way that Joe and I come at this tends to be as storytellers. So before Skyrim came along, we were telling these same kinds of stories in a different medium, you know, one way or another.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
So, and mostly it was in things like tabletop games. And, you know, for me, I was playing a lot of computer games, but the story was something that was, you know, going on in my head. It wasn't something that I was making available to the public. And before that, Joe and I have a long history with tabletop games like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons. We played a lot of really
Top Secret.
Yeah, vintage stuff.
Yeah.
Top Secret.
A lot of story, a lot of character development in those.
Star Frontiers.
Star Frontiers, that's right.
We did a little bit of Marvel stuff, and then a
little bit
Champions. Champions was another one that was kind of a superhero focused tabletop game. I always found Champions to be a little bit overcomplicated, but it was the same concept, right? Somebody in the group was telling a story, and everybody else was telling their character's story or portraying their character's story through role play. So one way or another, we're doing this. So, you know. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, for me, the struggle is not to use, you know, similar archetypes, but to make sure that I'm not falling back on the same old tropes over and over again.
Right.
Character with a revenge story, And I'm very cognizant of that right now as I'm doing the passage, for example.
Yeah, it's kind of timely.
I don't want Etienne's story to turn into a mirror of Fleet's story. Right. And I don't think it is so far.
I mean, there's some aspects I think, you know, people that have watched have noticed, and there's going to be. I mean, you've got a character with a bow that's really good with it. So
there's that similarity.
There's going to be some similarities, but I think overall the story in and of itself is very different.
Yes. And I think so too. I mean, it all comes down to character and how you define the character. So Fleet was a character who was rife with all kinds of kinds of emotional and psychological problems, some of which were exposed a lot, but never really well described or defined.
Right.
We all knew that there was some kind of a multiple personality thing going on with Fleet, but my methods for storytelling back then were a bit less sophisticated, and I really didn't dive deep into what the character's motivations were, or if I did, I don't remember doing it, not to the degree that I am now, right? Besides, I would argue that Etienne's a better archer than Fleet was. However, Fleet's the superior swordsman, so anyway.
There you go.
All right. Next.
So hopefully that gets to the crux of the question. So
I think it does. And Henson, I believe, is someone who actually joins us from the Tamriel Vault community.
Oh, great.
Henson is, I think, well known there for creating some really pretty cool character builds. So if you want to check out Henson's work, you can go to tamrielvault.com and check it out. There's some cool builds out there by Henson and many others, of course. Okay, so this one is from Andrew Clues, longtime fan of the show, supporter of the show.
Yep.
He can rarely join us in these because of the time difference.
Right, yeah, he's over in the European sector.
This may be less of a question and more of a, say, comment/feedback, but we wanted to read it because Andrew's been such a great supporter, and we thought maybe if we go through the contents of his feedback, that some things might come out of it that might be interesting to talk about.
Sure.
So he says, "Hi, Joe, Matt, and Stu. Firstly, I want to say I love the show. Thanks for doing it. Please don't stop. I first tried Skyrim a while ago and didn't understand the open world sandbox type of game. But after listening to you three chaps, I'm now many, many, many hours into the game. Having Matt share his noob perspective has been incredibly helpful too. I know you're working on so much content at the moment, but a show where Matt can share what he's learned since episode 14 would be wonderful."
I think that's a great idea.
I think it is, and I think, we've got a couple of episodes of Cy Lee's story, Wayward, on deck.
Yes.
This is great. We're pretty excited about this. We've got 2 episodes in the can that are being edited right now where Matt is in the driver's seat.
Matt is in the controls.
Yeah, Matt will actually be running Cy Lee's character for 2 or 3 hours, and you'll get sort of that experience with him as the drivers. So I think that'll be kind of interesting and unique. Hopefully those will be coming out
and
soon.
with us as the backseat drivers.
Yes, exactly. Peanut gallery, if you will.
Probably a better term.
I know, right? If that isn't enough, you three and your guests have inspired me to consider making my own content off the back of the game. I'm only at the very early stages of planning, but was thinking about creating a podcast of gameplay. I did the bombard Stu yesterday with a few tweets regarding this already. Sorry about that. Got a tad excited. Yes, we got some tweets going. That was cool.
That's all right. Excitement's good.
Yes. My current thought process is to pick a character and follow them as they fulfill a particular quest or story that is pertinent to them personally. I would have one voice for them, which would be in their thoughts and ideas as well as immediate reactions to gameplay. I would employ a second voice for a narrator who would describe the visual elements, such as the scenery, people, animals nearby, etc., and would be the eyes for the listener, if you will. Together, this would hopefully make for a sort of fictional radio show type podcast. I think it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and for those of you who aren't aware,
Absolutely.
Andrew already is into podcasting. He's done, he's doing a podcast, a motoring podcast, where he talks about cars, and that's pretty successful. It's a nice little podcast. So I would love to hear something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A Skyrim-based radio show with sort of
I
live
like that. Yeah.
commentary with, in character and sort of narrator-based commentary. I think that would be amazing. So more power to you, Andrew. I would say go for it. More podcast content is always good. Okay, what do we got next, Joe?
Okay, let's see. I'm instead of trying to muddle my way through. I'm just going to read it kind of straight up. So
Let's do that.
this one is from John. Excuse me. Hi, guys. First off, I'd like to thank you for the great content. Not only is it entertaining, but it makes my Skyrim characters more deep, interesting, and most importantly, fun to play. That's a good thing.
That is a very good thing. Mission accomplished.
Anyway, I have a tad bit of a quandary regarding my most recent build. He's a male Breton who is about 50 years old. I intend for him to specialize in alteration and illusion magic while also using two-handed weapons, alchemy, and wayfarer. That is from the mod Skyrim.
Yep. Also, Percus Maximus uses Wayfarer.
Yep. You see, he's a pacifist. The build is inspired by the Jedi Knights in that he will manipulate the minds of others to avoid conflict via the use of spells such as calm and fear. However, my problem is that I'm not sure how to integrate the character's acquisition of his magical abilities, since I've always hated the idea of characters being able to cast spells without explanation. My thinking was that, since the character is Dragonborn, his blood grants him a greater connection to the Earth in a similar ambiguous vein as the Force is in the Star Wars universe, and can therefore manipulate his own surroundings more easily with the use of alteration and illusion magic. Could you help me expand on this at all? I like it. I think I like the idea of being able to explain where abilities come from. It just makes for a more rich, deep, enjoyable character.
Right.
And being kind of a Star Wars nut myself, I am plenty happy to see
And
the
he
connection
is.
between
Serious Star
the
Wars.
Star Wars universe. Although, midichlorians, not quite understanding that one, but,
This
I
isn't the
guess,
first time we've heard Joe complain about midichlorians.
know, but
Yeah.
anyway. So how can we help John?
So
kind
he really wants to have some basis upon which to explain his magical power. It sounds as though
Right.
when he says he's trying to approximate the idea of a Jedi Knight, what that says to me is that he's looking for a way outside of the traditional Skyrim spellbook and study
right, more
mechanic to explain what's happening.
more of an innate or predisposition,
Right.
which
Which is cool.
and the fact that he's localizing it to just a couple categories of spells with illusion and alteration, I think.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
honestly, the whole kind of being more in tune to your surroundings, I kind of like that take on it. It's kind of similar in a rough way of when I was working on Hinto with his kind of connection, more grounded connection, and his use of spells being explained as more of a more of a metaphysical or
Right.
or connection with
It was like
with being
more of a
Dragonborn
spiritual
and,
kind of
that's
thing, an
right.
instinctive kind of thing. It wasn't about learning and book smarts. In fact, we were
Right.
saying with that character that he was illiterate.
Correct.
So spell books were really that whole mechanic we threw out.
Right.
Right?
Well, yeah, basically we kind of incorporated it as, it was being absorbed. He wasn't necessarily reading, because mechanically that's kind of how you're going to learn.
Sure.
That's how you learn the spells. I don't know. I can't think of a way around that.
No, and you don't necessarily need a way around it. I mean, there's certain things about this game that you can just flat out ignore. If you want to say that just because you have a spell book in your inventory and you click on it and it goes chunk and you suddenly know it, doesn't mean that you have to, as a player, say that your character read the book, because first of all,
Well, it destroys the book.
it destroys the book. That doesn't make sense to me at all. right? So, I mean, if we're talking about stuff that doesn't make sense, let's just, let's throw it all out.
Right.
And explain it however we want to explain it.
Right. Well, that I found that actually that mechanic kind of interesting because, being D&D players, that was kind of how that worked too, especially with scrolls and stuff. Once you read them and cast a spell, it was gone.
Yeah, it was a one-time use thing.
In D&D, it was more of a sense that it's gone from your memory, so I have to restudy
Study
it.
the
But it's a
book again.
similar thing. So I thought that was kind of an interesting note that they, I don't know if they took it or borrowed it or whatever. But so you I mean, that's kind of more of it's imparting whatever it has to you. So in this case, with these two groups, maybe any spell books that you find or come across that are outside of them, you sell them or you just dump them off, kind of like what you did with the orcs when you were doing the weaponry in the passage, to explain that he looked at it but he couldn't use it, so you just get rid of it, and if you want to sell it, I suppose it's not going to make it that much gold, but and for those tomes that you can that are within those schools that you want to keep, they're imparting their magic to you because you're open to it. You're spiritually or via your dragon blood are open to receiving that type of magic. So
I think
John, I think you kind of got it though with maybe starting out with this because you basically you're more susceptible or more perceptive to that type of magic.
Well, I think part of what we're talking about here is the difference between acquisition of spells,
right,
and where does the power come from that fuels the spells, right? And it sounds to me like the way that he wants to play the character is that the character is going to have certain innate abilities, almost the same as a shout, right? So the game doesn't necessarily explain where the power comes from that you use to fuel a shout. It says dragon blood, it says this, but it's still fairly nebulous. You have the dragon blood. Well, what does that mean? Is dragon blood another name for metachlorians? I don't know. So I think what I think is the more interesting question is you can come up with any mechanic you want to explain how the spell actually gets into your brain.
Right.
But I think the more interesting idea is how do you define for yourself and your character what's the power source? What is it that he's drawing from, right? So you mentioned things like drawing from the earth, so your feet are planted on the earth and the earth is filled with this magical power, and somehow you have the ability to basically pull it up and harness it and channel it, right? That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is you could go completely off the wall, and do something very different. And you could say that, maybe your character is a Briarheart who has broken the bonds of the Forsworn and has gone out on their own, gone rogue, if you will. And you're just, for role play purposes, you're saying that they've got this item embedded in their chest that has this power, right? And it does things. It allows them to do things, control things, manipulate things. It gives them a power source that no one else has. But you impart upon your character some weakness associated with the Briarheart as well, Now,
he also went on to go that, and I think you've got kind of an attachment to the Bretons. So what is it about a Breton race that maybe you can wrap something similar about that?
Well,
I know they're more in tune to magic.
Well, you can kind of say that, right? I mean, the Bretons are... from a game mechanics sense, right? They have this innate magic resistance, which is quite powerful, you know. And on the one hand, you could play that as, well, they're attuned to magic and they can use magic and stuff like that. Or you could kind of go the other direction and say what that means is that there's something about Bretons that makes normal magic repellent. They're like sort of they're sort of like a black hole, if you will, in the magical net,
Right.
right? Where someone who is attuned to magic, and what's going on around them, when they see a powerful Breton mage walk by, they see a completely different interpretation of magic and how it works. I sort of imagine for those who are sensitive to magic as being able to look around them and see almost a web of interconnected power between living things and the earth and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the Breton walks by and they're like a black hole,
Right.
where something about them gives them this innate resistance to magic. And you could sort of picture magic differently in that way,
Sure.
to say that they don't use magical in the traditional sense because their bodies aren't made for it. They've got some other means by which they wield magic, almost in the sort of Superman versus Bizarro way, right?
Right, right.
I don't know. But I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think Breton is a particularly interesting choice for a character like this because
right.
I feel like the Breton's relationship with magic is very different than what we see in
So
dark elves and high elves.
certainly
and stuff.
could have an interesting story on how he's breaking the mold.
Absolutely. I think you could take this any direction you want. What I really like is the idea of figuring out what the power source is and what the basis for your idea is going to be, and then looking closer at it to see if there are some interesting weaknesses and limitations and things like that you can build in that kind of fit with your story, whatever that is, So I think that's cool.
Cool.
Okay,
Right.
What is next?
What do we got?
Donald sent us a message, and he writes, I have a character idea and could use some feedback and some ideas. I play on an Xbox, and with the release of Skyrim SE, I'm finally able to make my return. I have my main character. His name is Leaf Freeblade. He will be doing Stormcloak's main questline companions. I have his story mostly figured out. Where I could use some help is with this idea I got for a playable antagonist. His name will be Draken Lichborn. He's a Nord, or at least resembles one, and his skills will be conjuration, two-handed, illusion, and heavy armor. The basic idea is he was a reaper of sorts with a powerful lich mage. His main job was to go out with his bound battle axe and collect souls for the lich to use. After the lair is raided, thinking the companions to give Leaf a conflict point, Draken is captured and kept prisoner somewhere in Skyrim, thinking Solitude, and was kept as sort of a high-profile status prisoner, thinking he wasn't killed because maybe they wanted to study him or question him or something like that. Okay. He was steadily zapped with electricity or electrical magic to keep his mana drained and bound in chains. I'm thinking many years of this to explain his weakened state at the beginning. With the Civil War breaking out, he's being moved along with other high-profile prisoners to a more remote prison, thinking the ice cave up north.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, just not sure which faction. I will use alternate start to choose the shipwreck start, as if the transport ships and Draken escapes from the transport ships.
Mm-hmm.
He will head to the college to start and use his illusion to conceal his true identity. I don't plan on actually completing it, just having him hide out there while he gains strength. Okay. I want him to be the antagonist to my main hero. The conflicts will actually be writing exercises because I really want to get into it. Any tips on helping this idea actually work? Suggestions on making Draken more of a villain? So he's going to basically create two characters. One is going to be an antagonist and one's going to be a protagonist.
Correct.
Okay.
Cool.
It is cool. Now, we also have to be aware that he's playing on an Xbox, so his options are a little bit limited at the start in terms of what he can't do any modding necessarily of his own.
Right.
Well, he could.
But the pool is becoming increasingly larger.
Yes, he could, essentially. Interesting. Well, I mean, the cool thing about the idea is that you get to play from both perspectives.
Right.
And it sounds like, Donald, you have sort of mapped out already which characters are going to do which quest lines. The question is, how do you tell those two stories in parallel, and are you bringing them into conflict with one another? I don't know. I mean, you could certainly. He talks about the idea of it being a writing exercise. So he says the conflicts will actually be writing exercises because I really want to get into it. And he tips on helping this idea actually work. My biggest tip would be if you're playing on console, Xbox is a good thing, a bit more flexibility there. Keep your eyes on, first of all, keep the story idea in mind, but then keep your eyes open for what's going to be coming out, because I feel like the current state of SE mods is not such that you could directly support this idea, but there are mods on the PC that we have right now in Legacy Skyrim that would totally support this kind of an idea. And with any luck, we'll begin to see some of those released for console, which would be a huge help in this particular case.
Right.
What do you think, Joe?
I think it's a super cool concept, but yeah, how to bring it out onto the game, using the game as a driver.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as a writing exercise, sky's the limit.
Yep.
I mean, so how often can you sharpen your pencils? About the only limit you have.
Right.
So if that's, I mean, if it's solely to write, then yeah, it's too bad that the writing Dragonborn writing mod Take Notes isn't out there too, but I guess that's neither here nor there as far as what you can or can't do, because you're playing on PC or a console. So
I mean, something like Take Notes would be ideal, but you can simulate that.
You can simulate
outside of
that,
the game with your
and
own
it
writing.
sounds like you probably will be. So yeah, I guess mix the two mediums and try to resolve some of those unresolvable pieces in the game, just because the game won't allow you via your writing.
Yeah. I think the short answer is your imagination's going to have to do a lot of work here, Donald. But I think that's a good thing. And I think over the course of time, we'll see some other mods come out that will help you support this concept a bit more in-game. I think of things like you're saying, Joe, Take Notes, which allows you to actually do the writing in the game setting,
right?
Which would be great. But I also see other opportunities potentially with mods like Familiar Faces, right, where you could take a character and turn them into an NPC and then make them into a follower, for example. Right. That is not available on SE as far as I'm aware, but the catalog of mods is growing by the day. So I think it's up to you, Donald. I think you can either pursue this idea now, or you can put it on the back burner, give it 5 or 6 months and see what's available for Xbox or console mods at that point, and see if there's anything in there that will support your concept. If you want to just plunge ahead, then I think the best thing to do is just play the characters individually, do different quests, and then fill in the gaps with some creative writing. And to me, it sounds like a great exercise no matter how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to focus on Draken first, then start that shipwreck up and see where the game takes you. Go to Winterhold and build up your strength and
Yeah.
try to think of it from that character's point of view. What would he do? I mean, is there a place that he needs to get to, or is there someone that he needs to contact? He's trying to find your antagonist, so where would he go to do that? That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of see where the game will build your story out.
Yep. I think the challenge here is not in terms of creativity. It's, the challenge here is just what does the game support technically? So there are a lot of things
that can be challenging
that you could latch onto in the game itself. And some of these are things that we talk about when we have had previous episodes on Project Epicosity, right? So you can have Draken.
Yeah, this is very much in that vein.
Doing, Dark Brotherhood quest line and maybe taking a dark twist on the mage quest line or something like that.
Sure.
Well, you have your protagonist is doing things like companions in Civil War, and and where they're coming into conflict is up to you creatively to determine and document that however you want to.
And would your antagonist side with the Imperials?
Mm-hmm.
If they did the Civil War, who would they side with and why?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe they side with the Stormcloaks because they want to sabotage it somehow internally.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that comes to mind too is you could really take a look at the quests, how the quests are laid out, and look for what would be an interesting and sort of reasonable progression of those quests based on your larger narrative. So what I mean by that is maybe in your story you're saying something like, first you're going to play Draken. Draken starts at level 1 and he does the Dark Brotherhood quest line, and the Dark Brotherhood quest line culminates in the assassination of the Emperor, right? And then what you do as a player, you say the assassination of the Emperor is the event, the triggering event that sets off the Civil War. And now you switch to your other character and you play through the Civil War quest line as your other character, right? And the resolution of the Civil War is what kicks off all the conflicts with the Eye of Magnus and the magical anomalies going on. So then you switch back to Draken, right? And you do that. And maybe kind of do this alternating thing. And in your mind, you're thinking about how each story plays off the next or feeds the next conflict.
Right. And then
that could be interesting.
Multitude of side quests you could
try
to fit in. Boethia and Namira.
Yeah.
All the darker ones.
Mm-hmm. So there's some ideas for you. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I would say, and if you really are burning to play this, go ahead and do it. Don't wait. If you really love the idea and want to move forward, do it. But also keep your eyes, on Bethesda.net and see what comes out over the next 6 months, because there could be some stuff there that might really be interesting to you. I don't know. Okay, Joe.
All right.
Are you good to go on to the next one, or do you need a break? Or you?
No, we're good. We're good.
Awesome.
Let's go.
That brings us to Jay.
Okay. I believe this is mine.
Can I get a thingamajigger?
A thingamajigger?
Yes, please.
One of these thingamajiggers?
Yeah, more thingamajiggers for these are cold.
Those are cold.
Mine
are
aren't so cold.
For the thingamajigger.
Thank you. What's a who's it?
Right.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So this comes from Jay. I've been watching the podcast since it started, or listening, or both.
Yes.
And I came to the channel back during Fleet Story. Anyway, my question is, can you do a segment where you discuss various ways of doing a corruption arc in a Let's Play? Stu, you just blocked me.
Sorry. My bad.
He put a window over the window so I can only see half the window.
I'm such an idiot.
Anyway, let's reread that. Anyway, my question is, can you do a segment where you discuss various ways doing a corruption arc in Let's Plays that have been my favorite because of the significant character changes they invoke, as you yourself did a bit of corruption arc with Fleet, though he started dark in the first place. I'm wondering if you have any insights that could help my role play. Some overarching ideas I've had on the subject. Dragonic corruption. Each dragon soul absorbed could result in a character acting more and more dragon-like. Yeah, you could hearken back to the Dragon Priest, perhaps, on that. As Parthenax said, we were made to dominate. The will to power is in our blood. You feel it in yourself, do you not? Of course, I can't do that nearly as cool as Parthenax can. All right, and setting corruption. So this would be the next one. Setting corruption. The downright horribleness of the Elder Scrolls setting. The low value of life, the living conditions of its people, the people in charge being idiots, etc. Slowly warp the character into a maniac. And finally, the most promising and interesting Daedric influence.
Yes.
Very true. There are so many Daedric quests that start off good, but end with you having to do something horrible. Yeah, that's true. Molag Bal, Namira, Mephala, Hermaeus Mora, Mehrunes Dagon, etc. Yeah, they're all kind of nasty, aren't they?
They're all jerks.
So basically, we're looking at either a dark character or a good character that's corrupted.
Right.
How do we pull that off?
There's lots of ways. There's a million. As Jay outlines, there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's only
to pull that off.
3.
Okay, so here are my thoughts on this.
You're a corrupt person, Stu.
Yeah, let me elaborate. So we talked about the dragons, right? You absorb a dragon soul, and some taint comes with it, right?
Right.
We talked about. I like the idea of creating a framework for yourself that allows for different types of corruption with different effects. So you take the power into yourself, and some level of corruption comes with it, aka absorbing a dragon soul is great. You could even say that some residual effect from absorption of a word from a word wall is maybe that kind of the absorption corruption.
Dragon related, yeah.
And then you can have another classification of corruption, which would be corruption by proximity. So spending an extended period of time down in Blackreach, maybe the atmosphere, maybe there's spores in the air, maybe there's something going on there that has some kind of a corrupting effect.
Well, you could go with the Soul Cairn too on that.
The Soul Cairn would be another way to look at that. And then the other one is where the Daedra are concerned would be kind of the slow, sort of overwhelming, poisoning corruption of hanging on to a Daedric item for too long.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
And so what I would think about in this situation is that there's a lot of opportunities for a character to become corrupted. But if you really want to do it well, I would also think about frameworks by which a character can be redeemed and then play those things off of one another. So how interesting would it be for a character to acquire an item like Mehrunes Razor, right? And suddenly, over time, they're gravitating toward darker things, toward assassin-type quests, and they're using the dagger. And the more they use the dagger, the more corrupt they get. But what happens to them when they acquire the blade from Meridia?
Dawnbreaker.
Dawnbreaker.
I was just thinking that.
Maybe that has some kind of an effect that counters the negative effects of the razor.
Yeah, then you got this interesting push-pull.
Right.
And maybe the character comes to a realization, what's going on? Maybe they don't.
Right. So rather than having your character just descend into one dark thing after another to the point where you've gotten so dark there's no more dark left to acquire, you make it into a situation where the
None
character
more
is
black.
alternately doing different things. On the one hand is grasping for power, which is representative of this idea of corruption, but then is also striving to be saved at the same time. And so you're constantly in this push-pull relationship
Right.
where you're doing one thing and then you're doing another thing. So the deepest you can go in terms of proximity, right, is to go down into Blackreach, and there's some corrupting effect down there. But maybe that's somehow countered by going to the top of the throat of the world, you know?
Sure.
And so I like the idea that you could create this dichotomy. So if I were you, to make it more interesting, I would not just go one direction. I would go the corrupt direction in 3 different ways, 4 different ways, whatever, and define those ahead of time. But it might be interesting to go the other direction as well and look for counters, because I think it sets up some really kind of natural and interesting
Right.
character conflict and development
Oh,
opportunities.
yeah, just the internal strife you could build up.
Oh, for sure. But it gives you the impetus for doing lots of different quests, which I think is
Oh, yeah.
is pretty cool, you know. So if he gets in the doldrums and he feels like, you know, he's done something that's particularly vile, he might go on a spree where he does a whole bunch of things that are designed to try and counter that or to fight off the darkness, right? And
Right.
I just think that's cool.
Yeah, well, especially if it's a good character to begin with. You know, part of that personality is never really snuffed out,
Right.
and could kind of try to surface and
Mm-hmm.
make its way back to the top again.
Right.
You know, and that could manifest in doing a bunch of Mara quests or,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing.
I think that's absolutely legit.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that as well. I've always liked the idea of the whole corruption bit. I think where Aranus Arcana was concerned with Fleet, the corruption was the idea that some sort of evil being had infected him, almost like a parasite.
Right.
And it first, the first symptoms we saw were this idea that maybe he had a multiple personality issue.
Right.
It started out as volatility, and then it evolved into being unstable, and then from there it evolved into almost a full-on split personality. But really what was going on at the crux of it was that, you know, his body had been corrupted by some kind of a parasite that was trying to take control of the considerable power that he had to wield, and it turned into a battle for control over that power. You could play anything like that. So there's a lot of directions you can go, but I definitely think that whatever you decide to do, I would come up with some sort of offsetting thing just to spice it up and add some variety.
Yeah,
you
good
know?
idea.
Okay. That brings us to, what are we up to now here?
I guess,
Brian.
Yeah.
Brian. All right.
You're up.
Okay. So is that
That is the last one, I believe.
okay?
That we have
Yeah, this is
selected for the evening.
This is the last mail item. We're gonna talk about Brian's message, and then after that, we're gonna take a short break, and we'll come back and do some chat, answer some questions,
Open it
whatever.
up.
So cue that up. So Brian writes, in the last podcast, you talked about doing a region-specific playthrough. In this case, he's talking about what, episode 40? It was called Location.
Yeah, 40 or 41.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a good topic for a future podcast would be about a faction-specific playthrough. I think creating a character that focuses on one of the 13 joinable factions might be a very interesting story. I've seen too many players try to do it all, so trying to stick to one faction may be a challenge for some people. But I think in the end, this kind of playthrough might be very rewarding and make a player a better role player. I'm working on a Skyrim faction guide that will cover the 13 factions. And the part that will be a video series for each faction will include a playthrough of the game with that faction using mods, as well as a general overview video that will reference the guide.
Cool.
And then he provides a link, which we'll put in the show notes, by the way. Anyway, I think making a character that stays faction-specific could be a very interesting topic for the podcast. Well, Brian, we're talking about it in the podcast right now.
We agree.
Yes, we agree. And, you know, yes, we're responding to your to this listener mail right now, but I definitely think that this could be the entire focus of a podcast.
It could be its own thing, for sure.
Coming up soon. So, what are your thoughts, Joe?
I think it's a great idea, honestly. I mean, I had never really given a localized gameplay a lot of consideration until you started the passage. And like with a lot of people, I was really glad that you chose the Reach to start with. It's such an underexplored area in my plays, at least, but it really shows the potential and made what I otherwise considered a fairly inhospitable and not very fun place really interesting. So I think doing that on a faction scale would be just as interesting and exciting and really kind of cool. In some respects, it's something that I could try to incorporate some of those ideas and concepts in my own Let's Play that I'm feebly pasting together.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's based on a Dwemer character, so I mean it's not necessarily a faction insofar as the game is concerned, but it could take some of the concepts and be applied to it. I have no doubt.
Right.
Just that localized focus.
Right. Yeah. You know, I guess this is something that I've done in the past, but sort of done without thinking about it. I have done playthroughs that were completely focused on nothing else but Thieves Guild. That's it. Started in the Thieves Guild, worked through the Thieves Guild.
Sure.
You know, so I think that is an interesting way to do it. I mean, when you think about the passage, it's focused on geography, kind of. That's the basis on which I started this. So we started in the Reach, and now we're changing our focus. We had several episodes where we transition into a focus on the Rift. I think that you could do the same thing with a faction-focused thing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You know? And what I love are my favorite parts are those areas in between where you get to make up the reasons. Yeah, it's the transition from one to the next that makes it so interesting.
Right.
So if you've got a character who is completely focused on the mage quest line, right? And you get to that point where you attain this level of archmage.
Right.
Now, what are you going to focus on next?
Right.
It's really interesting to think about the possible stories that you could write to glue together that quest with, say, the companions.
I was just thinking the companions.
Yeah,
too,
or the thieves.
You know, it's so they seem so opposed. You know, one's very intellectual and one's very feral, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that in between that gray area, what is it that happens or transpires to connect those two? That's where the real interest lies, and also the real difficulty in some respects too.
Yep, Brian, I think what you should do is take your idea and glue it together with Jay's corruption idea. Let's glue them together, right?
There you go.
You become the archmage, and then somehow you're corrupted. You're corrupted by all these magical anomalies that you're fighting, and you turned into this. You kind of start having this dark side, and pretty soon you find yourself in the Assassins Guild quest line, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. I mean, there's obviously the stories you tell are your own,
right?
But the idea of a faction focused playthrough, I think, is very compelling.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Absolutely. So love it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for listener mail. Wonderful Wonderful questions. We appreciate them. Keep them rolling in.
Absolutely.
We do not address listener mail in every single episode. We are going to try to address listener mail more often in 2017.
Yeah.
We're changing our formula.
We're going to kind of group them together and
Yeah.
make, like tonight, more of a focus on it so that we can get to it. But
Yes. So we definitely encourage you to submit these things. Go to the website, charactercrusade.com, and submit them. We will get to them eventually. We don't always get to them right away. But like we said, we're going to try to be a bit more timely in 2017, but we will address them eventually. So if you have something that's really time sensitive, like I'm doing this playthrough right now, and I really want to ask a question right now, I'm afraid we don't have any specific mechanism to do that. You can certainly reach out on Facebook and ask a question there, and we will try to get back to it as soon as we can. You can do the same thing on Twitter if you'd like to, and we'll try to get back to it as soon as we can. But the surest way to make sure that it gets on the show, if you're looking for a response on the show, is to submit something on the website.
Right.
The form on the website is how we get things into the podcast.
Right.
So
yeah, as far as the immediacy of the, if you need something more urgently or are looking for a more quick, a quicker response, yeah, I'd definitely steer towards the different social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, because not only will there be a better chance one of us will respond, but you also kind of get that group think going as well.
Absolutely.
Take advantage of the peers.
Yeah, let's do that. This podcast is really, it's all about talking about the game and ways to make the game more fulfilling. Yes, we do a lot of interviews. We talked about a lot of things other than actual gameplay specific things, but that's okay. We're going to be probably continuing to do quite a few interviews coming up in 2017, but we're going to try to focus as much as we can on bringing those discussions around to things that are practical to those of us who are role-playing this game. So, make sure you get your questions in, and we will be addressing them without a doubt. Tonight, we caught up on 6 or 7, and we were behind a little bit, so
there's still a few more to go, but yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, so for now, what we're going to do is we are going to take a short break, and we're going to be back.
Don't point, Stu. It's rude.
I'm pointing right now. Hey, it's our podcast. If we want to point, we can point. So now I'm going to point the rest of the Okay. So we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be back shortly. Make sure that you queue up your questions and let us know what you want to know about. If you've got any questions, comments, things you want to hear us jabber about, we've got the time. So. We're back. It's QA time. Chat time. We're thinking, since it worked so well in the panel discussion we did, if you've got a question or comment or something that you just like generally for us in the studio here to talk about, you can put it in the chat and put question in all caps so we can pick it out and make sure that we're addressing it. But otherwise, the show proper is over, and we'll probably edit it together.
After show.
Yeah, after show. That's what this is. So thank you all so much for your participation, and now we can just kind of sit back and relax and talk about Skyrim or whatever else comes to mind that is at least somewhat relevant. It doesn't have to be totally relevant. I mean,
Question. What's your favorite Elder Scrolls race?
Joe, you want to go first?
I've always been partial to the Dunmer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about them, but I just like the Dunmer.
Yeah.
Dunmer, and then probably not far behind him would be the Orcs.
Really?
Yep.
I thought you'd throw the Argonians in there, maybe.
You
haven't gotten there yet?
Not yet, but I do. I am warming up to them. I am warming up.
Right.
How about you?
My favorite is Bosmer by far. I love the Wood Elves, without question. Yeah. So it's all I can do to not play Wood Elves in every playthrough. My second is Bretons. I like the Bretons. Yep.
All right. Cool.
Let's see. Question. What's your favorite brew beer?
Style or specific?
I would say specific.
I like Shells. Probably the Shells Fire Brick is my standard everyday beer.
Okay. Shells being the brewery, Fire
Shells
Brick
being the brewery, Fire Brick being the brew.
Okay.
It's a nice Vienna style lager.
Nice. My favorite is Surly Furious. Surly being the brewery, Surly Brewery here in the Twin Cities.
Yep.
And Furious being the brew, which is a very hoppy, kind of bright flavored ale, which I enjoy.
Is that an IPA?
It is. I think it's considered an IPA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a bite to it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
For sure.
Yes. Okay, next question. What are some of the ways I can create a war on the Thalmor? Mods are available. Boy. I would say one good place to start is if you're doing PC mods and if you're playing on Skyrim Legacy is the Mad Frenchie mods. Mad Frenchie does a whole War with the Thalmor series, which is, I think, 5 or 6 different mini quests that chain together.
That actually, I believe, also includes the Orc Stronghold that I've used.
Yes, Adalmatar.
Correct.
Yes, wonderful stuff. I've only done a couple of them. Joe has done different ones than me, so between the two of us, we've hit most of them, I think.
Great author.
Yeah, wonderful. The other thing, if you're just playing vanilla, I would just, get on the wiki, figure out where they hang out, and figure out how to bind those things together.
Weave that into your story.
Yeah, of course, the obvious one is always doing the Alduin thing and raiding the embassy. That's the ultimate attack. So yeah, there's always that. Let's see. Question revision. What's your favorite playable and non-playable race? I don't know. I mean, my favorite playable race is still the Bosmer.
Yeah, I'd still stick with my originals. Non-playable. Well, I'm doing a Dwemer right now, so I'd have to probably say Dwemer would be up there. Snow Elf, I think, would be a really fun race to play.
I like the idea of the Seishi.
How about the Akaviri?
Yeah, so the Seishi people of Akavir, the snake people who've invaded Tamriel more than once. I think that would be pretty cool. Pretty awesome.
Good call.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. What are your must-have mods for Skyrim Legendary Edition 32-bit? Must-have mods, Joe.
Boy.
let's limit it to say your what's your top 3?
Oh boy. Do we even include Sky UI? Because I think that's almost considered standard.
No. Let's focus on stuff that's good for role play.
Okay. For me personally, Take Notes is up there.
Boom.
Hunterborn for most character playthroughs. In conjunction with that would be the Campfire.
Sure.
What else? I'm trying to think through my mod list, what I've got going. I should really look at that.
For me, I would put interesting NPCs right up there.
Yep. That's a very good one.
Yep, interesting NPCs right up there.
It has a lot of fun quests along with the interesting NPCs.
Yep.
What else? God, there's so many.
Yeah, I know.
Armor mods, texture mods. Boy, we could.
Yeah.
That's like an unending list.
I would say interesting NPCs for me, just for the role-play and character development opportunities.
Right.
Immersive armor and weapons which technically counts as 2, but I'm counting it as 1 because I feel like it. Just because it vastly expands the scope
Right.
of how you can make
Right.
your character look and fight and all
fit
that
and
stuff.
Feel.
Yep. Those for sure. And then I guess for me, alternate start. I don't play without alternate start anymore, and I'm still exploring all the different start options. So
Alternate start
that's a good
/
one.
what's Skyrim Unbound. I'm actually playing with that one.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the I haven't had too much experience with it yet, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a really interesting spin on a starting mod.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could probably go on. I just all of a sudden
Yeah.
my memory's failing me on
We probably
what I've
can.
got in my load order. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go through it and I'll go, oh, that one. And anyway. What do we got?
Okay. Next one. Who is the mod author of the Black Sacrament mod, and can it be ported to console? I do not know who the author is, and I'm not sure that it can be ported to console because my impression.
If it uses SKSE, it can't. Not
Yeah.
yet.
My impression is that I don't feel like that mod was complex to the point where it required SKSE. I don't think it was.
Right.
If that's the case, yes, it could be ported with the mod author's permission. All of the textures and meshes would have to be converted first.
Oh, right.
And then there's a small quest that's included. So there's some larger conversion issues there if you want to bring the quests over and stuff like that. But excellent mod. I love it. Haven't used it recently. I've sort of
Right.
moved beyond it, but excellent mod.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what do we got? All
Did I
right.
miss anything?
All right, we got that. Playable, non-playable races. Black Sacrament.
There's one.
Ah, damn it.
Just
Okay. Here, right here? Is this where
Mhm.
we are? Okay. I love listening.
No, wait.
What?
That's not in all caps, but
Oh, okay. Question. So when we fill out questions on the the Character Crusade form on the website, should we be careful of giving you a name that we wouldn't want you to say out loud at the podcast? Sure. Yes.
yes.
Yes. I mean, we need to refer to you in some way.
Yeah, if you prefer a moniker of sorts, yeah, then we'll need to know that. So
Yep. That's
if
helpful.
we haven't done that, we apologize, and maybe we can look at the page and
Mhm.
make that more clear.
Yep. So yeah, we'll make that a little bit clearer. Love listening to your podcast when I'm driving to and from work. What's the darkest turn one of your characters has ever taken? Joe, you've got some things to say about that, don't you?
Why do you look at me?
I didn't even look at you. I was looking the other way.
You didn't even look at me.
Yeah.
Won't even look at me in the eye.
I know, right?
Oh boy, I've had actually quite a few dark characters. Depends. Are we
Yes.
are we in Skyrim specific or in general?
Skyrim.
Okay.
Skyrim.
All right. The darkest turn I would have to say in my personal play would be with Enaroth,
Mm-hmm.
who probably on her clearing of Felglow and reveling in the annihilation of every single mage in there,
Yeah, that was pretty dark.
as well as not only that, but taking the 3 individuals that assaulted her in her earlier days
Yeah.
and beheading them, roasting their heads, and then feasting upon them.
Whoa.
So yeah, that was
Okay,
probably
that's
my
dark.
darkest.
That's really dark. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Enaroth.
Enaroth.
Very, very dark character.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to learn about Enaroth on the website. Much has been written about that character, which is kind of amazing.
And I still have quite a bit more of her journals to publish.
Excellent. Well, we got to make sure we keep doing that.
I know. I'm woefully behind.
He's woefully behind. His fault, not mine.
Matt's fault. I thought we agreed.
Oh,
on
yes,
this.
Matt's fault. Sorry, Matt's fault,
Matt's
everyone.
fault.
It's Matt's fault that Joe's not publishing his journal entries.
Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, obviously. For me, probably Fleet. Cimmerian.
Cimmerian, sure.
Taking the very dark turn. It got darkest at the very end, I think, of that series. But in the end, he may not be the darkest character I play on my channel. Let me just say that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Couch Warrior, have you considered a series where you role play as a Thalmor trying to make the Dominion noble again, like a true believer who doesn't want to fall into the arrogance of his brethren? I have not considered that, but that's
Interesting idea.
Very interesting premise
Yeah.
for an RP. So, yeah, I'm totally going to steal that and take full credit for it. So thank you very much. Yeah. That's the only reason we do this podcast, is so we can pirate ideas.
Leech ideas.
Yeah,
off.
leech ideas off people and make videos. Okay.
Okay.
Open World Addict writes, will you ever interview Anai Scion on the podcast?
Love to.
Yes. The answer to that question is yes.
Yes.
And I would qualify that by saying that we are going to be doing a series starting in January of 2017 in cooperation with Gamer Poets, where we will be interviewing a lot of mod authors. My hope is that Anai Scion will be among the group of illustrious modders that we get to interview in 2017. The plan is that once a month we will be doing one of these interviews. So during the course of the year, we'll have the distinct privilege of interviewing at least 12 modders, and I'm hoping that he's on the list because I love his mods and I use them a lot. But there are obviously a lot of other factors that play into that, right? They have to be available. They have to want to do it.
First and foremost.
Right? They need to be able to connect.
Yeah, there's
all this stuff. So
there's a lot of hurdles, but none of them cannot be overcome. It's just
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
If it's possible, for sure.
Yes. So we've got some really cool names on the list so far, and like I said, we'll be partnering with Michael at Gamer Poets on this, so he'll be handling a lot of the production aspects, which will free us up to do the interviews.
To focus on the meat.
Yes.
The meat.
The meat. We're good at the meat.
The meat.
Yes. It's our specialty, the meat.
Roasted?
Poached?
Boiled or baked?
Ooh.
All right.
What do we got next? Question. I see this one here, but did we
skip anything?
Yeah, I'm feeling like we did. You guys at chat move it so fast I can't.
Yeah, there's one.
Okay. There's a whole bunch here.
There are.
Okay. Question.
Yeah, that's the one.
Ever tried out Immersive Idiots? Roderick Redbeard. I can say without reservation I have never tried that because I've never heard of it.
No. But now I'm going to have to go look.
Immersive Idiots.
Immersive Idiots.
That
sounds like a Vander.
What? What are you saying?
I'm saying that could be a lot of comic interplay there.
Yeah, it could be potentially, yeah.
What an idiot.
That might be right up his alley. Yeah. Okay.
But no. To answer your question.
Never heard of it. Okay.
What else?
The Weasel That Is Dirty has entered.
Welcome.
Okay, that brings us to what? Oh, question.
There's one.
Okay. Should I make a Skyrim Let's Play of my corruption story, even though my Let's Play skills don't live up to the story yet? I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. My feeling on that is start. Make it into an evolution, right? Don't wait until you have all the skills mastered before you start telling a story, because that'll never happen. Just start telling the story and let your production skills evolve in the same way that your story evolves.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I mean, that's where I hopped in. It's like, either start it now or never start it. So, yeah, there's hiccups along the way, and there's some frustration every now and again. But yeah, don't get in your way.
Yeah,
have at.
Exactly. Like Joe says, yeah, don't get in your own way. If you hesitate, it might not get done. So just get started, and you'll improve over time. That's what I did. Go look at my earliest videos; they're atrocious. So, okay. Question: When may we expect another episode of Vander's Adventures? I don't know. So, it's definitely something that I'm going to continue. But I don't know yet. I'm not ready to start recording more Vander quite yet. And I think that's because I'm having a good time with a passage, and I'm on a roll, and I'm telling a story, and I'm enthusiastic about it. So I've learned from experience that if I'm doing a number of different things at the same time, and I allow myself to start getting stressed out about falling behind on one story, that all of my stories are going to suffer. So I put a lot of time into Rune Runner, and I'm happy with where it's at right now, and it's going to continue. But I'm on a roll with the passage, and I'm going to stay on that roll until I feel like I'm ready to get off it. If I do anything else, the story will be half-assed, and I won't be happy with it. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can really only focus. I feel like I can only focus on one good story at a time. So I'm just interested in this passage experience to let it play out and see where it ends up. But I will definitely come back to Vander's story. My hope is that someday I can convert Vander just to SE and run him on SE, because I would love to do that. But it's not quite there yet.
Right.
So.
Question, I think, right there from...
Right here?
Nope, right above. Ted Talbert. There you
go. We did that one.
Oh, did we?
We just did.
Oh.
Yep.
My mistake.
What is your favorite follower? Joe, what's your favorite follower? Any game, it says.
Oh. Let's... I haven't done a lot of followers. And I don't have a lot of experience with some of the Elder Scrolls to know what some of those followers might be like. Let's see.
I can see the smoke coming out of his ears.
If I probably, probably Orania.
Okay.
She is the mage at the Shrine of Azura.
Oh, sure. Okay. Gotcha.
And then there was my made-up forced follower of the blacksmith's wife for Enaroth. And now, of course, I can't. Violet.
Violet. Yeah, that's right.
Violet Hayes.
Violet Hayes. How about Dagrelon?
Oh, I do like Dagrelon. He's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, he is.
He had a pretty profound impact in Enaroth's story as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Yep. I'm a big fan of Rumarin. Always love Rumarin. I've used him in multiple playthroughs, and every single time I use him, I hear something new. Pretty amazing. I just, he's so freaking hilarious to me.
Coffin of pies.
Yeah, the coffin of, when he started talking about a coffin made out of pie, and talking to Vander about it, I was like, I love you so much, Rumarin. I can't believe you just said that. It was so amazing.
Destiny.
So, and I had no idea that was one of his lines, even after playing him a few times. So
hilarious.
Yeah. Okay. Where are we at? I feel like the chat is moving at such a brisk pace. Okay. Who's the best channel on YouTube? You guys. Okay. I think we can accept that. All right.
Dirty Weasel, maybe a close second.
I don't know. That Dirty Weasel, he's pretty good. I don't know. Okay. Question. How did you come up with the name The Passage? And what does that even mean?
For its
protagonist, Etienne. I came up with the word passage because I liked I knew that this was a character that was going to go through a transformation. And I didn't know what kind of transformation it was going to be, but it was going to be some kind of damn transformation. So I called it the passage because for me it has many, many different meanings. There's the passage from, one state of being to another, from one state of mind to another. There's the physical passages we see in the game where we've got, different passes through the mountains that are labeled this passage or that passage. We saw in one of the very first episodes, what was it? Darkfall Passage. Darkfall Passage is one of the places we ran into inside of a cave. But I called it the passage because it was about a character's transformation, and I see that as a passage from one state of being into another state of being. And what we're seeing in Etienne is we're seeing him start in one place, and we're seeing his passage into what he will become. We just don't know what he'll become yet. So we're waiting to see what happens. So that's how I came up with that. And I like the sound of it. I like the feel of it. Yeah, that's it. What else do we got here? So many good questions. Here's something about a kidney stone. That looks interesting.
Yeah, no, they're really not.
No, they're not.
No, been there, done that.
Yes.
Highly overrated experience.
Yep. Joe's going to do a role play of that soon enough.
Literally rolling on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's that. There's no play in that.
Look at this. Brooklyn says that we have kick-ass fans, and I could not agree more with that. We do have kick-ass fans.
I would agree, too.
Look at all these kick-ass people in here. These are so many of these people are the people that we see in the comments on all of our videos. We love you guys to death, and we certainly appreciate your dedication to all the crap that we do. I mean, we do a lot of weird stuff here. I've got to admit. I mean, it's pretty weird. And you guys tune in all the time and watch our videos and leave such wonderful comments.
Oh,
it's just
always
amazing.
Very thoughtful and insightful, and it's a lot of fun.
Yep, and sometimes really silly, but that's okay.
That's fun too.
Yeah.
Question.
Oh, question.
With the Thalmor keeping Talos on
tabs.
Sorry, it's a little tiny from this end. On Etienne's yeah, I'll just suffer through it.
Yeah, you do it.
With the Thalmor keeping tabs on Etienne's somehow, do you think Angie might be in danger now?
Well, I think that if you watch episode 65, you will find some information in episode 65 that will give you an answer to that question. S.W. Callahan. I don't know if you've gotten there yet. I'm guessing you haven't, because I sort of get the impression that once you see episode 65, I'm expecting a rather long
dissertation.
And a very interesting post in the comments from you about that. So check it out. And that'll give you all the information you need, I think, to answer that question. And hopefully it'll be entertaining in the process. Much more entertaining than I could do just telling you. Okay. Question. What's your favorite divine and your favorite Diadra? You first, Joe.
Well, you always do this to me.
Because
you want time to think.
Correct.
Yeah. Favorite divine.
Beyonce.
No.
I thought for sure it'd be Beyonce. Liberace?
There's a certain like to Liberace.
Yes.
Let me see. I don't know if that's divine. It's just divine.
Oh, so divine.
His plane was divine.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to run through them.
Which ones?
Divines. I'm trying to run through the divines. Which ones?
Well, let's see. You got your Kinnereth. And you got yourself your Akatosh, right?
Yeah, you've got those.
Those are good ones.
Those are good divines.
You got your Talus and your Zenithar and your Julianus and your Mara.
Yeah,
you got yourself your Stendar.
Let's go with, I don't know if I have necessarily a favorite, but I think if I'm going to pick something, Julianos kind of strikes me as an interest.
Good. Interesting pick. Yeah.
Just with the whole mage connection.
Gotcha. Yep.
Which has always been an interest. Daedra. Which Daedra? Boy. That's a tough one. Would Malakath count as a Daedra?
Sure. Yep.
We're going to go with Malakath.
Yep. Okay. So we got Malakath and Julianos, right?
Correct.
Okay. I like Kinnereth on the Aedra side. And I like Virmina on the Daedra side.
Yes.
Virmina. I think she is the wickedest, most sinister one of the bunch, and she's completely underrated. I think she could kick the ass of Molag Bal.
Kick Molag balls?
Yes, kick Molag balls.
Balls.
With extreme prejudice.
Extreme.
Okay. What does that bring us to here? Oh. Have either of you tried Inigo follower mod? If so, what do you think?
I have
if not. Why
I've
not?
Heard a lot of good things. I haven't personally been much of a huge follower person, so just kind of what's even in vanilla. I haven't explored all of that beyond, like, Lydia, for example. But
sure.
And I guess I haven't had a playthrough yet where Inigo seems like he would be an appropriate or viable follower, even though it's like one of the best follower mods probably out there.
Yep, I think most people agree on that. I've used Inigo. I've never used him in a Let's Play. And when I did use him, I didn't use him for long. I used him for a little while, and I enjoyed adventuring with him. There came a point where he kind of vanished, and I couldn't find him anymore. And I sort of felt relieved he was gone, to be honest. Not that I didn't like him and find him humorous and all that stuff, but I think there's something about my style of play where I think I'm just really self-involved and arrogant because when I'm playing,
I don't really want to say anything, but
yeah, Joe knows this already. This is old news. I have my own narrative going on in my head. I mean, it's always there, and I felt like Inigo, as witty and interesting and funny as he was always breaking in and screwing up my vibe. And it's something about my style of play, I guess. I don't do a lot of followers either. And when I do followers, look, I've made a mod for myself that makes followers that are completely silent, if that says anything. Right?
You will say what I want you to say when I want you to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own follower mod that creates a follower for both Robard and for Vander that say nothing. They're completely silent. There's some mechanical reasons for that, but it goes beyond that. I tend to like followers. There was a time when I was looking for a good follower, and I felt like they were all too chatty, so I gave up on it. And I don't know what that means about me specifically, but I don't use them. I don't use followers extensively, and when I do, I have my own ideas about how they're reacting and what they're saying and what they're doing, and I think that just says something about my probably manic and overactive imagination because,
active. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, he was
overactive.
Yes. Overbearing, were you saying?
Controlling, but, bearing works well, too.
All right, fine. Fine.
Okay, actually kind of in the similar vein. Where did I see it now?
This one here?
That one there. Doing a role play on YouTube. When involving the main quest, how do you keep it from hijacking your story?
Ugh, that is a good question. Yeah, the main quest line kind of slaps you in the face over and over. I mean, once those dragons are out of the box, you can't put them back in, right? I mean, they're...
Toothpaste's out the tube.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point, and it's actually interesting because I've had some really good conversations recently with Cal from Dirty Weasel about this very thing, because we're talking about the main quest line and thinking about how could this be, how could the events of the Alduin quest line, I'm just going to call it the Alduin quest line, be integrated into a story where we're telling tales across channels that are supposed to be taking place in the same world. Obviously, our application of this is a little bit different, but even just in practical terms as a single player playing through the whole thing, I don't know. I think my feeling is the best way to experience the Alduin quest line is to not do the whole quest line all in a row straight from beginning to end. I think you start it and you sprinkle it in. You come back to it every so often, but you don't live the quest from start to finish. Part of the reason is that it has a way of wanting to take everything over. And second of all, I feel like the ending is a lot more epic if you're high level by the time you get to the end. To me, it makes more sense that some of the side quests and the other quests that you might do might be things that are preparing you for fighting Alduin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for God's sake, I mean, you're going to Skuldafn and you're basically ascending into heaven and coming back down again, for crying out loud. I mean, it seems to me like
it should take a little bit to get there.
It should take a little bit to get there, and I will tell you that I think one of the most jarring things ever is to go to Sovngarde and come back down and go to the companions at the beginning and have them calling you a whelp after you've basically ascended to heaven, defeated the World Eater, and come back down again, and then you've got this asshat calling you a whelp. I mean, it made me literally want to beat everyone to death in that, right? It ruined my experience from a role play perspective of the Companion's quest line, which is an amazing quest line. That's why I think a lot of times when we're talking about Skyrim, we're not talking about what should I play with what character necessarily. Yes, we talk about that stuff too, but we talk about sometimes what's the right order to do these things in so it feels more freaking epic.
How can you connect these things in a way that makes sense?
Right. Wouldn't it be cool to, I think about this, right? If I come straight out of Helgen and I go and just do all of that stuff and I kill Alduin at level 20, and then I go and do these other things, it feels weird, right? But if I come out of Helgen and then I go through the Civil War quest line and I become a war hero, and it's my reputation as a war hero that gets me into the companions, and then I become the Harbinger, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all of my experience as the Harbinger that allows me to take on the dragon or to fight Mirak. To me, that seems way more epic and interesting than just, doing the whole Alduin thing right away. Yeah. So,
well, at that point, you're breaking the game down into just simple quests.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's no good way to bring them together that makes sense to you, then it's just a quest game.
Yep. What I like to do is when I'm starting a game, I like to think about a specific character and think, what are the 3 or 4 quests that I'm going to pursue with this character? Mm-hmm. Never am I thinking about, I want to create one character who is basically the Swiss Army knife of characters and is going to do everything. What I'm thinking about is, I want to create a warrior. and he's going to do Civil War, and he's going to do Companions, and then he's going to do Alduin. Bang! That's the heart of it, right? And then I'll do side quests from there, or I'll bring a character in, and I'm saying, oh yeah, he's gonna become the Archmage, and then he's going to become the Listener, right? To me, that's much more interesting and powerful,
right?
And all of those transitional periods, we talk about this all the time. All those transitional periods between each one of those main quest lines can be some kind of a cool transformation. You know, maybe the character comes in and he's the low of the low, right? He starts out as a lowly, groveling thief, right? And he works his way up through the ranks and he becomes the guild master, and then he has some kind of a change of heart and decides to get involved in the Civil War quest line because of some crap that's going on in Riften that drives him crazy or makes him see the light, right? And you just have this evolution. And I think the worst thing you can do is try to create a character that does all the quest lines. To me, that's the wrong approach, but that's just me. All right, what do we got?
We have... Have you ever played Vampire the Masquerade, either the video game Bloodlines or the pen and paper RPG? Should I finish my Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines Let's Play before starting Skyrim? No. I have not played it.
No, I haven't played it either.
I know of it, and it seems like probably something I'd be interested in, but no, I haven't.
Yep. Heard a lot about it.
I don't know if you would need to finish it. I guess it's up to you really. There may be elements that you could, from that particular game, you could port over as far as ideas and concepts. Insofar as that goes, maybe there's something towards the end of that game that you can bring over that you haven't hit yet. But I wouldn't say no. Don't make them linear.
I would agree. Do whatever feels good. You know, it doesn't. If you're not excited anymore about doing your Vampire the Masquerade Let's Play or whatever, it's going to come through in your content.
Right.
The worst thing you can do is, I think, force the content creation process. I mean, I think that's the kiss of death when it comes to creativity. I mean, I knew there were going to be a lot of people who were going to be pissed at me when I stopped doing Fleet's story. But I didn't have any choice. I just didn't like it anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. I was done.
Well, you kind of got burned out on it.
I got burned out on it.
So hard and heavy on it that it it wasn't sustainable.
Yep. And I think that relates to what we were talking about earlier when I was just mentioning Vander's story.
Right.
Is I love Vander's story, and I'm not prepared to give up on his story yet. I'm not going to do that because I love it and I have great plans for it. But
forcing it now is going to do exactly that.
Right. I mean, I'm on the Passage freight train right now, and I'm having a good time, and it comes through in the content. People can tell I'm having a good time when I play that.
Yeah.
So I need to be, my time to create videos is limited, and my YouTube channel is my creative outlet. So if I'm going onto my YouTube channel and I'm forcing stuff because I feel somehow obligated to do it, it's going to come out like crap. And people are going to know that right away. They're going to look at it and say, this is not Couch Warrior's best work. It'll be obvious. So, I think, it's a YouTube channel, man.
Play what excites you.
Yeah, do what's exciting to you. And if you feel like it's time to drop Vampire the Masquerade and start something new, then go ahead and do it. That doesn't mean you can't come back to it.
Or if you've got the capacity, do them both.
Yeah, if you feel legitimately excited about the idea of doing both, then do both. Yeah, I'd say go for it, man. What do we got here? We're woefully behind you guys.
Yeah, we are.
We apologize. Okay. Doobie-doobie-doop. Okay. I don't see any more questions in there.
Yeah, that might be it. That could be it.
Okay. Look at all you wonderful people in there. Oh. Miss Starbreeze. I see you. I see you. And Shirley and Katie and CW or SW. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Oh,
that is a great question.
That's a good question.
Okay. Let's see. I would like to know what S.W. Callahan's favorite character archetype is. Okay? And let's throw that out to everybody. Put in a one-liner response. Each of you, I want to know, we want to know what your favorite character archetype is. Okay? Put that in there. We'll wait. We're getting a little tired of waiting at this point, but we'll wait.
Well, there's leg. Come on. Just be
Leg's
patient,
no
Stu.
excuse.
Be patient.
Yeah. Character archetype is like a character class. If somebody said you have to play one character and that's going to be it, what would you choose? The loner who hate... So you're playing me? That's ridiculous.
The World of Warcraft?
Doopy doopy doo. What question did we miss? Open World Addict, can you please repost your question? I mean, things are flying by so damn quick here that we can't keep track of all of it. So...
we'll definitely get to it, but yeah, trying to go back and find it now would be kind of a lost cause.
Yeah, and literally, I mean, this is totally Matt's fault. But
it is.
We apologize for Matt's failure here. But
we'll have to coach him.
Character out for revenge for family's death from Shirley. An arcane hunter from Open World Addict.
Cool.
A sneaky rogue from... this person.
I can't see it
Poisons.
from here.
A knight. Sneaky archer, heavy on poisons.
There you go.
A pickpocket poisoner. A spell sword. This is amazing.
Cool.
So amazing.
Arcane hunter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hashtag blame Matt. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, rogue spell sword.
Light armor, sword and board, with a little archery.
Yeah. Very nice.
Sweet.
Okay, so next question for the audience. When you're thinking about creating a new character, what are some of the resources that you use to model, different types of characters that you might play from, say, a personality perspective or something like that? And we'll let you go ahead and answer.
So in the meantime, for Stu.
Okay. Question for Stu. Do you consider what makes your character tick? What gets under their skin or makes them scared or annoyed or angry? Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely.
To all.
Yes, to all of the above.
That's what makes the character. That's what makes it come alive.
Mm-hmm. So when you hear us talk about things like character weakness or vulnerability, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about, as well as when we talk about the circles of character conflict. A lot of that, those traits are surfaced through tools like that. So
that's essentially what all these little tools and tricks and tips that we try to brainstorm and come up with are ways that we can get at basically those kind of traits.
Correct. That's correct. What we want to do is we want to try to come at what those traits are, but we want to do it organically. We don't want our characters to be just a collection of traits.
Right.
These are the things that scare them or their pet peeves or whatever. We want to understand what the basis is for those things. So we'll do stuff like character backgrounds, and we'll do kind of a study of the character's weaknesses and vulnerabilities to try and figure out what it is that drives them so we can understand why they have these particular traits. So, while it may not be obvious, we may not be running down a list to say that, Joe's character doesn't like wide open spaces and prefers to be in the dark and prefers to be by herself, whatever, and hates people that do this and that and the other thing. He's able to come at those things in his story because he understands what his character's vulnerabilities and weaknesses are. And then those things just bubble to the surface, right? I mean, that's kind of how we would like it to work. It feels more organic that way.
Right. Okay, we may have to scroll up and see what we got for responses.
You guys. So stinking fast. Okay. Oh, gee. Sneaky poison assassin.
I think that's
My eyes are failing
question.
me. Yeah, I thought it said sneaky potato assassin. This is a potato gun. Oh, God.
A Dwemer potato gun.
Yeah. Oh, my God. That could be devastating. Okay. Classic glass cannon mage, arcane archer. Yeah, we got some lag going on here, but that's okay. Okay. Anime, movies, and personal stories.
Very good.
Pick an aspect of myself that I want to explore. And how can I use a character to understand aspects of my own personality? That
can be a tricky but very that could be really rewarding, actually.
Yep.
And therapeutic to some extent.
Absolutely it is. Existing characters.
Sure. Done that.
Method acting. Look at Dirty Weasels chiming in with method acting.
Wow.
That is amazing.
Dirty Weasel the LARPer.
I know, right?
Very good.
People going to bed. Good night, everybody. Good night, anyone who's going to bed.
What else? The old D&D alignment chart. Yep.
Sure. That's a good resource.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky potato assassin. Hashtag. God, man.
Katie.
I have to be so careful what I say in here.
Everything's hashtag.
I know, right? Look at, she's... Okay. Hey, Hawkeye's leaving. See ya, Hawkeye.
Yep.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. I will never play Skyrim again if you don't help me. Oh, boy. Okay, this comes back to this. My Skyrim is sloppy and does not work. The mods don't work. The mods don't even work. Help me, help me, help me. We need much more information. Are you playing on a console? Are you playing on a PC? What console is it? Bada, bada, bada. That kind of stuff.
What mods? What are you using to organize them?
Right. Yep.
That's a really tough question to answer just through commentary on Q and A kind of session.
Mm-hmm. For every player that uses mods, there's a different solution to whatever the problem is.
Yeah, there's different problems that crop up for
Mm-hmm. The most fundamental thing is load order.
That's generally the cause of many of them.
Yes. If you're playing on PC and you can use something like Nexus Mod Manager or Mod Organizer, depending on the version you're playing, and can use loot, then a lot of times that will take care of your problems. If you're playing on console and you're using Bethesda.net, what you're going to need to do is research these mods, and you can't rely on the information that you find on Bethesda.net. You need to look these mods up on the Nexus website for Skyrim Special Edition, and you need to read the descriptions thoroughly because they will tell you there if there are load order issues, if there are compatibility issues, and you need to follow their instructions completely and make sure. Most of the time it has to do with the order that you're loading these things in, or two specific mods that may have a conflict with one another.
Right.
So,
sounds like they're playing on PC, but
playing on PC. Okay.
Quite honestly, I'm gonna defer to Dirty Weasel Media's tutorials on the topic.
Yep.
Go check out Dirty Weasel's videos and tutorials and guides, because he's very thorough and not just telling you here's mods, but he's telling you here's mods, here's conflicts, here's why. Basically, it gives you the tools that you can do this research. And modding requires research. If you think you can just slam these in and be done with it, and Bob's your uncle, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
There's so many variables. The best thing we can probably offer is just go out and research whatever mods you've got in. Look up some of these tutorial videos that either Gamer Poets, Dirty Weasel, and many others have put together, and it's going to help at least narrow down what you can troubleshoot.
Well, yeah, and I understand completely the desire to want to just jump in and play and not have to screw around. But what I think you should do, create a new character for yourself with no mods, okay, and use that as your research character, right? And slowly introduce mods into that playthrough one at a time, okay? So in other words, you play vanilla to level 2, you introduce 2 or 3 mods tops, and you keep playing, and you read the descriptions thoroughly and do whatever they tell you to do in terms of load order, and you keep gradually adding things. And this is a character you can enjoy, and have fun with it, but you're using it as the basis for testing your load order, right?
It's kind of like your control.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, Gamer Poets has joined us.
Yay! I'm so excited about that.
So, that's a really good. I mean, it's tedious, but you need to be methodical like that.
But the good news about that is if you get that character up to level 50 or 60, and by that time you've got, say, 100 mods in there, presumably you've added them all gradually. You've been able to tell when something's gone wrong and roll it back. You've read all these descriptions. Now you've got a profile that has all the basic stuff in it that you really love. Now you've got a working profile. You can create a new character based on that profile works. Right. And now you can really do a legit RP where you're more focused on character and story than you are on load order and all that stuff. It just takes time and doting, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's kind of a labor of love, and you have to be careful when you pull these things out too, because some of them will leave artifacts, and
absolutely
there's really not much to be done for it.
Yep.
I've given up at least 1 or 2 characters because the saves just got corrupted from pulling mods in and out.
Yep.
So if it's a texture, you're probably okay, but some of them get a little more entrenched.
Yep. The other thing you could do that I think might be very helpful is go check out the step guide.
Yes.
And look at the step guide, and if you really want, probably the most bulletproof method you can get, go check out the step guide and sort of follow their instructions as far as getting started. And then when you feel comfortable with things and you want to branch out and use a mod that's maybe not included in the step guide, you will have done your homework, and you'll kind of understand what methodologies you might need to employ to make sure that even though maybe that's not on their recommended list, you can put it in place and test it and be fairly certain it's going to work right. So a lot of resources out there. So what else we got? I'm so glad to see Michael in here.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Okay. And we got Tech 2846. He likes the neutral character, stealth type characters.
Okay.
Semper Fi, buddy. I see you. Okay. What else? Oh, there's so many good things in here.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay. Danielle is leaving. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for dialing in. Question. Who would play Fleet and Etienne in a live-action movie of their stories?
That's
a
fun what if.
That is. I
am so horrible with actor names that
Fleet.
I'm not quite sure.
Oh my gosh.
Matt Damon. No,
probably not. Fleet, I have the hardest time with. I think just because I've spent too much time sitting with him, that You know,
Right.
it's hard for me. I've got an idea though for Etienne. I got to look it up though. So I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Oh, there's a good one too. Speaking of, while you're doing that,
Mm-hmm.
let me jump up a little bit. Ba-ba-ba. Will Etienne get involved in the Thieves Guild somehow now that he's going to be in Riften?
I think there's a strong likelihood of that. The guy who would play Etienne. The guy who would play Etienne. I'm trying to think of what is the actor's name.
I'll throw out some references.
So the guy who plays Captain Charles Vane from
I see that
from Black Sails, from
you
the
know,
TV
he would
series
also
Black
probably
Sails.
make a good Robard.
Actually, he probably would. Yeah. So yeah, look him up. I don't know the actor's name, but he's. If you've ever watched Black Sails, I'm binge watching Black Sails right now, and I've made it most of the way through season 1. The guy who plays Charles Vane he's got a great look to him. He's got a wonderful voice, and his character in that series also is in the midst of a really interesting and compelling transformation or passage into becoming a new kind of individual, which I thought was particularly compelling.
So kind of leads into Katie's.
Okay.
What does Etienne's voice sound like in your head? That's a tough question to explain.
Yeah. You know,
Similar to the actor who you just pointed out?
Yeah. Go watch clips of Captain Charles Vane from Black Sails. That's
There you
your
go.
guy right there.
Perfect.
That's your guy. He's got a deeper, more gruff and seasoned voice than I do, but he's many moons old, right? I mean, he's a veteran high elf,
Right.
lifelong soldier and an outdoorsman. I think of him as being gruff. I feel that he's probably pretty unemotional in the way that he speaks. Not a lot of inflection, probably a lot of stoic expression and dead eyes.
Right.
But that's not because he doesn't have emotion. It's because he suppresses it. So that's kind of how I think of him, and it's impossible for someone like me to portray what Etienne would actually sound like when I'm role playing.
Right.
So I don't even attempt it.
Right.
I leave it up to the imagination of the viewers.
In a combat tourney between every Skyrim character you've ever played at their full potential, who would win?
Oh my God.
That's kind of a fun one.
Yeah, that is.
For me, it would be Enaroth.
Enaroth would take it in the end.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
She is determined, and she does not lose.
Mm-hmm.
She would bring Grimal down.
Gotcha.
Fast and furious.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
I suppose it'd be a tie between Cimmerian and Fleet.
No. I think
No, I mean, if they were pitted, they would tie. They'd both die.
yeah, right. I think what would happen is at their peaks, geez, it's hard to say. I feel like Fleet would eventually overcome Etienne in combat. And then I believe that Fleet would be taken down by Sagramore.
Oh,
Sagramore would deliver the finishing blow, and he would come out on top, just because of just brute strength and force of will and velocity, and that's what I loved about playing Sagramore was just the size and power and velocity of that character.
Well, he was also very just so single-minded in purpose.
Yeah, he literally was like a blender with legs. He was like, kind of amazing. So much fun. Yeah. We missed one, didn't we? Did we miss one in there?
Waja.
Oh, who would play Waja?
Waja.
Waja? Oh, my God. I don't know. I don't think anybody could play Wadja. I think he would just have to play himself. Which is what he does already. So the live action Roger movie.
Somebody tall and good at slapstick.
Yeah, who would that be?
I don't know.
know.
John Cleese, but
maybe John, a very young,
John Cleese.
Actually, that might be.
That'd probably be.
Yeah, to be honest, that might work. Okay, what else? Sag is a beast. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Jay puts his money on Vander because he's underappreciated.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even
unpredictable
lump him in that group. When you start thinking about combat trials, I never think of Vander.
Well, he would definitely be unorthodox.
For sure. Yeah, he would screw some people up.
Casting runes in a circle.
Yeah, you just run in a circle casting runes.
Is that the first thing about zombies? Is cardio workout?
Yeah.
I can't remember what movie that's from. It's from a movie somewhere.
Billy Bob Thornton for Roger. Are we talking? Maybe. Yeah, that could be. Vander would ADD them to death. Oh, yeah. That's pretty funny. The Kender of Skyrim. Yeah, I don't know. Vander is, he's a character that I like voicing because I feel like I can voice him well. I get excited about voicing characters when I feel like I can voice them well. With Etienne, I know that I can't do his voice, so I don't even attempt it, and that is part of what influences the play style of that Let's Play. Sure. I don't even attempt to say it. When I do speak in his voice, I just speak with kind of a deadpan because that's the closest I can come to sort of approximating what plays in my head when he's speaking. So, oh, wow, you guys are cutting each other. Okay. What? SW Callahan is actually role-playing Vander at this point, I think. He's what he's doing. All right, guys. So we had talked about earlier what our plan is coming up. We've got one more installment of this wondrous thing that has come to be known as the virtually immersive tour of Skyrim 2016. That's coming up on the 19th of December, and it's been quite an interesting and fun ride.
For sure.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work, honestly, to figure out how this green screen stuff works and to set it up and tear it down every time we do this, but it has been so...
It's been fun. It's been worth it.
Yeah, totally awesome. So we're definitely going to continue doing the green screen thing in 2017, but we'll be cutting back the green screen stuff to just once a month. So looking forward to that. Michael from Gamer Poets is in the room with us, and we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that we're going to be doing a cooperative project with him, interviewing modders. We're looking very forward to that. So you can expect to hear more about that, over the next month and a half or whatever. We don't have a definite start date pinned down, but we're working on that. So that'll be something good for 2017. We've got a number of things cooking that we're very excited about, and a lot of them are things that aren't done deals yet, so we can't really talk about them.
Right.
But we are looking at integrating some new aspects into the podcast that I think will be pretty fun. We'll continue to do the Skyrim thing, but we're going to focus on role play in some new and interesting ways as well. And we'll be diversifying our gameplay just a little bit, and looking at probably some other kinds of games other than video games, some tabletop games, pencil and paper types of games, and integrating stuff like that into the show. And so we're pretty excited about that. If you've got any specific suggestions for things that you'd like to see the Gentleman Bastards do, or you'd like to see, Character Crusade podcast try and tackle topics or whatever it is, make sure you let us know on the website. You can submit that stuff in our web form. You can also hit us up on Facebook which you'll find linked from the website. I think it's, what is it, Facebook/Character Crusade?
I believe so. I actually haven't been on Facebook for a long time myself, so
I think that's what it is.
We're going to blame it on Matt.
Yep.
Matt's the Facebook guy.
Blame that on Matt. That's his responsibility. So lots of things to look forward to. We're all very excited about it. Where do you get your ideas for the music that you use in your role plays? My YouTube partner network. I'm part of a YouTube partner network, and I have been for 3 years. And they provide me with quite a nice catalog of music that I can use. There's more there than you could ever possibly hope to review yourself. So generally what I do is I will create a character and I will play the character for a while, and as I play, I will be playing in the background some selected kinds of music and trying to determine, what speaks to me, right? So for the passage, when I started the passage, I was thinking something spare and mysterious, right? And so the first 40 episodes of the passage, we got something spare and mysterious. Then when I was thinking about the transition from, say, around episode 42 onward, I was starting to think more about that passage idea, that idea of the character transforming and the method or the way in which the character was going to transform. So I had some idea of where my plot was going, right? And so at that point, I was thinking about things like solitude and sadness and stuff like that, and what sounded like that, right? What sounded like that to me. And then I picked what I thought was the right music for that. So music for me plays a huge role in the stuff that I produce on YouTube. So that's why I have intros that are a minute long, because the music is important to me. A big part of what sets the tone is the music, right? And when I'm watching my favorite TV shows, for example, when I'm watching Game of Thrones, I love that intro, right? I love that intro. It's a little bit different every time, but the music is amazing, and I love to listen to it and stuff like that. And for me, that period of time, of a minute and a half while I'm listening to that music and looking at the credits and watching the amazing graphics and stuff, kind of sets the stage for me or puts me in the mood to watch the story. So that's why I do the intros.
Yeah, I mean, music really does, like you say, it sets the tone. It puts in the mood that you're trying to get at. It builds that. I mean, think of any movies or TV shows that you enjoy and try to think of them without music, and they would be so flat and uninteresting. We were talking about the Vikings earlier, the series. That's another great opening, in large part because of that music. I mean, I think, my daughter actually downloaded the Fever Ray album because of that song, and of course I latched onto it, and then I went out and I grabbed Wardruna because it's another Nordic type of sound. But it's just it's setting the stage, trying to get across the mood that you really want. And for me, I don't have a partnership, and that's fine. But so I go out and I kind of peruse some of the royalty-free areas that I can find, and just start going through. And within a couple seconds, if it's something that's going to be interesting. So you listen, you're like, oh, there's one. You download it and then store it away and find a place to use it.
Yep, and that's one of the things we've talked about on this podcast too. It doesn't matter if you're making videos or not. If you're just playing the game, sometimes it's cool to turn down the music volume in your game settings.
Sure.
And play whatever music on your own you feel fits the character. Make a playlist for yourself on Spotify. Right. Play that music softly in the background while you're playing the game.
Right.
If that music fits the persona of your character, it can enhance your experience playing the game in the same way that the default Jeremy Soule soundtrack did the first time you played
Right.
Skyrim.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to try to get into character. For me, music plays a huge role, and that's why I always turn
Sure.
down the Skyrim music to nothing, and I put in my own music because I'm trying to set the mood, and the intro is a big part of that, setting the stage for what's to come. So music is a great way to, I think, emphasize the soul of a character in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I love that. Okay. Which is better, in your opinion, recording voice while you play or after? How much free time do you have these days? Joe, what's your take on that as a new YouTuber?
You know, I think in some respects, I think recording your voice afterwards is easier because it gives you time to collect your thoughts and put together the commentary that you really want, and it also gives you a chance to, you know, redo and kind of recut so that you can pair it up. In the same respect, it's also kind of a pain in the ass because sometimes you end up doing a lot more editing than is necessary, just because, you know, if you screwed something up and you redid it, now you've got to go into that audio, clip it out, and then push everything up so that it syncs with what's going on in the video. So I think doing it afterwards gives you a little more flexibility. Doing it during your recording makes your post-production that much easier.
Yeah, it's a different set of issues either way.
And I know you've done both.
Yes. I think it's safe to say, too, that sometimes what you choose to do is based on the limitations of your hardware and your recording space.
Well, and that's that's a good point, because with me, actually a big reason why I record afterwards, not only because it gives me time to think about it, but also it gives me the flexibility to record when I have some quiet time in the house to do so. And I don't always have that when I'm recording the video. So, you know, there oftentimes, you know, kids or my wife will be watching a TV show in a room, and if I try to record audio while that's going on, you know, whether you like Daredevil or not, you're going to hear it. You know, that kind of thing.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but that's a good point. It really does depend on kind of the space and what your environment's like at the time.
Yep. Yeah, I would say there are different kinds of experiences. I think there are some types of stories that are easier to tell when you're doing all of the audio after the fact. And, you know, that's what Fleet's story was. It was all the audio was done separate from the gameplay. And it allows you to put some polish on things that you might not be able to otherwise.
Yeah, which is something I've done just recently in the last one. Speaking of voices, I've finally found Sanak's voice in a manner which I've envisioned it.
Right.
And the only way I could do that is post.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you're doing the voice work in post-production, you have the flexibility of playing around with the voice type. You can put some effects on it. You can do different things like that are much harder to do in kind of a live commentary type of a scenario. Right. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
I think voicing as you play, I don't know, it's more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Spontaneous.
Well, it's more spontaneous, yeah. It might come across even as more genuine. Because it's more spontaneous, you're reacting as it happens. So there's that benefit to it. I mean, there's pros and cons to either one.
Yep. It just depends on your style, you know, and what you're trying to accomplish with that story. So I don't think that Fleet's story would have been as good if I had been recording the commentary live while I was playing, because I was able to go back and write the letters and write the scripts and create the dialogue and stuff like that. Now, more recently, obviously, everything I'm doing now, I'm recording the commentary live. At the time I'm playing, I'm recording. It's all extemporaneous, right? And that has some definite benefits from a production perspective. It's why I can produce episodes fairly rapidly, because once I'm done, I'm done. I just, have my formula for post-production, and I run it through the machine, and it comes out the other end. Done.
Stu's Fuzzy Pumper Play-Doh Factory.
Correct. Yeah. So, but it does. You're exercising a different muscle, creative muscle, when you do that, and it's required me to learn how to be much more nimble, I think, during the creation process. So I don't think anyone's better than the other. I think they're just different styles with different strengths for different purposes. So
everyone's comfortable with a different method.
Yep. Question: have you ever thought about playing a pure mage?
Thought of it. I just haven't really done much about making it happen.
Right. I would agree with that. Last time I attempted a pure mage, it wasn't a great experience for me, but I've learned an awful lot since then.
Right.
So I would definitely be interested in attempting it here in the future.
Sure.
For sure. I think I'd be much better at it now than my first attempt was. Okay. What else? Am I missing any, or is this the next one?
I think that's the next one.
Okay. Okay. Ted asks, after your planned collaborations, will you work with others to create a how-to series on making role plays, behind-the-scenes stuff, hardware, etc., software, blah, blah? I don't know. I never really thought about it.
It would probably be interesting, but it would be a ton of work.
Yeah, it could be.
But it could be. I could see where it could be useful.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird process, Well,
yeah, the hard part is it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I guess there's still rules of thumb like there are with everything.
Mm-hmm. I think if I was going to do it, I'd probably maybe do a behind the scenes video on Rune Runner, which I think is probably more interesting from the production perspective than other stuff that I do.
Sure.
I mean, the passage is it's a wonderful, fun thing when I'm doing the actual gameplay, but after that, it's pretty mechanical. There's a lot more, I think, creativity and production effort that goes into Rune Runner, which might be more interesting to document.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely consider it. I mean, I've already thought about taking certain aspects of what I do and kind of popping them out and doing little videos on them.
Sure.
For, tutorial purposes. The problem is if, when I'm left with the choice of, do I want to make a story episode or a tutorial, I'll go to story every single time. And so the tutorials just never get done. They just don't.
Right.
Because if I have time to record, one of the questions earlier was, how much free time do you actually have right now? Not a lot, to be honest.
Not enough.
No. That's why this isn't a weekly podcast. If we had more time and could do this every week, boy, would that be great. But we just don't have that kind of time.
Right.
So when we're not together here in the studio, we're all off in our separate corners doing our separate projects and all hoping that we'll have time to watch each other's work. It doesn't always work out.
There's
that
even
way.
that. I mean, it's hard to even keep up with the channels that you'd like to.
I know. I'm a couple
let
episodes
alone make your own stuff
behind on Joe's stuff, and it sucks because, at the end of the day, you work a couple of jobs or whatever it is, and then you're doing the podcast, and then you're trying to launch or run your own channel.
Yeah, it's a lot.
There is not a lot of time left over to, do anything else. So
except just go to bed.
Yeah, I know. And the sad thing is, like, more often than not, I crawl into bed, with my earbuds in and my cell phone with me. and I'll try to watch something for a little while, try to take in a little bit of content to get caught up on something. And usually I don't make it all the way through, you know. So, yeah, usually it'll be like Joe and I will talk on the phone the day after he launches a video, and he'll say, "Did you see it?" And I said, "I saw half." I feel like my answer is always the same. I saw the first half, Joe. I'm working on the second half, but I fell asleep.
Damn it,
You know,
I need feedback.
I know, I need this feedback. How do I get feedback? Damn it. So
I can't improve because you're not watching.
Mm-hmm. I know.
All my problems are because of Stu and Matt.
Yes.
Never own your own.
I know. Spread it around. Spread the blame around.
Will you do another production stream like you did a few weeks ago?
I don't know. I don't know that what I did was helpful to anyone. It may have been. Most of the time it was just me sitting there working, not saying a word while the chat went on. Again, it was one of those things where I just did it on a lark because I thought people might be interested, and more people tuned in than I thought would tune in. But I don't know. The more of those things I do, then the more obligated I feel to, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'd much rather be making stories, to be honest. I don't like to do that, you know, production videos. I just thought I've never done a kind of behind the scenes thing before, and I thought, okay, I'll just live stream this shit that I'm doing.
I think it probably fits in that category of if there's time.
Yeah, right.
It's not you don't enjoy it. It's not you wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, they're just not, you know. If you happen to think of it and you're doing something and you can flip the switch easy, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But otherwise,
yep.
it's definitely not a hard
What
and fast
I
deal.
really get excited about is making content. And for me, it's really either story content. And I got to tell you, I love the podcast. A year and a half plus in, I look forward to these nights so much. And I really want to do more of the kind of stuff, too, that we did with the panel. The panel discussion was one of the most amazing online kinds of experiences, podcast experiences I've ever had.
That was pretty great.
Bar none. It was great. It was so cool.
It was.
Yeah, I'd love to do more of that stuff. And, you know, I'm hoping that we'll have opportunities to do more sort of epic panel discussions like that in 2017. We'd love to do more of those.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. And the response was great. We got some great feedback from everyone who attended, and people who love the subject matter on Reddit and stuff like that. So it was really rewarding.
Very cool.
Yeah. Let's see. What do we got here?
Have you ever thought about connecting characters through journals, for example? Fleet, I can't see that from here, found in a random dungeon.
Fleet's Fate.
Fate. Thank you.
Found in a random dungeon. So,
in short, yes.
Yeah.
We've had some plans which are still out there, but incorporating the Enoros journals, for example, into the House of Troubles.
Mm-hmm.
It would be just as easy once the book mods are fairly simple and straightforward to port those into other games that we could borrow from each other.
Mm-hmm. Here's one idea that Joe and I have discussed before. That we discussed this idea as a concept for something we could do kind of between each other's channels, but I tend to think it could be an interesting thing to source to the community, and that's the idea of putting together some written content for an in-game book that's basically like Mad Libs, where we leave certain strategic parts of the text blank, and we allow viewers to fill in the blanks. And then I would essentially, for example, create a book mod or a series of books in a single mod that have these sort of community-generated Mad Libs type of things in them. And then I would place them strategically in Joe's game and then allow him to do his playthrough. Right. So in other words, he'd be finding books in-game that have story type of content in them that's created by the community, and then we would get to watch the videos as he pulls those things into his story and integrates them into his story and does something with them. We've talked a lot about this idea of, wouldn't it be great if we had a mod where, we could pull in the items that we wanted to, but it was sort of randomized in such a way that we wouldn't know where it was going to show up.
Right.
Right.
More radiant, if you will.
Yeah, like that. So, if I know that Joe's character Sanak is a Dwemer, and there's these things going on that have to do with the Dwemer technology, culture, society, and whatever, I could create a book that establishes a story or a clue or something like that could be a pivot point for his story, and pop it in there somewhere in Skyrim where he might find it, and then see how he reacts and can integrate it on the fly into what he's doing. We've talked about stuff like that, which I think would be very cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
We would just need to come up with a right mechanism for doing it, but it'd be
it
pretty
would
neat.
be just as simple as really just installing the mod, because you're not going to know what it's altering.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's where we'd have a little bit of collaboration, because, of course, we'd need to know, don't put it here because I've got this mod doing this thing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for books, that's pretty minimal issue, but...
Yeah, I mean, if you for instance had a scenario where you've got a character who is got a mysterious background and they don't know what their heritage is, right? And then you were able to introduce a book into the game that the player didn't know what the contents of the book were going to be, but that explained some sort of interesting and leading clues about what their heritage might be. It would be a really interesting thing to just see how the player reacts to those things and follows the clues and what their interpretation of that is, and then how they kind of glue all the quests together. Right. I think that would be pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think we might have to try that coming up. We'll just have to come up with a formula that works, And book mods are so easy to make. I mean, they're the most basic mod that you can make in Creation Kit is a book mod. Yeah. And you could do so much with them. So, yeah.
All right.
Looks like Jay's got another one.
Yep. How much thought do you put into player home selection? And for good stories, how much thought should go into player home selection? A lot on both.
Yeah.
I know you're kind of in the throes of ferreting out house mods for Etienne, so
yeah, big time.
Just because it has to be something that's realistic for the character, not just something that's cool that has a whole lot of tchotchkes. I mean, those are pretty and nice to look at, but do they make sense?
Right.
Maybe for a comfortable mage type of character, you'll have a more comfortable home, but it's got tons of book storage and maybe there's no smithing gear, whatever.
Yeah.
It needs to make sense.
Yeah. For me, it's a pretty important thing. It has to suit the character.
Right.
That's the main thing. It has to suit the character. And sometimes you've got to look through 50, 60 more house mods before you find something that is the right fit. And even then, you might find yourself having to go in and tweak it once it's in game in order to make it really fit.
Sure.
But yeah, to me, that's really important because it has not only fit your character, but your character has to have the opportunity to go back to this place over and over, and has to want to go back to this place over and over. Either want to or be compelled to in some way. And so, yeah, that's a huge deal for me anyway. Yeah. Okay. I think we hit the end of the questions.
It looks to be. And it's, gosh, what are we going on?
It is 8:45, basically. Yeah. This is good.
Well, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but we might have to call this a wrap.
Yeah, Kevrod says the Eagle's Nest for Etienne. Yeah, I mean, the Eagle's Nest is probably hands down my favorite house mod ever created. But since it was used so much by Fleet, I can't bring myself to do another story that includes it, because it's sort of synonymous with what that really character was in a way. So, yeah, but, it's a work in progress. So, hey, we want to thank you all. We're going to call it for tonight. It has been absolutely wonderful. We love having these episodes once in a while where we can just focus on some questions. We can just open things up and interacting with you guys. Who does my hair? I do my own hair. I cut my own hair, man. I got a clipper. I've been cutting my own hair for probably 15 years. And I got a clipper, and my head is the template. I just... It's, it's dead simple, man. It's dead simple. So thank you, everybody. If you want to support the podcast, we would really appreciate it. Go out on iTunes and, give us a rating, give us a review. That would be great. It doesn't have to be a 5-star one, but we sure like those better than the 3-star ones. And then also you can support us by helping us out on Patreon. November, people, was a banner month for us. We had more supporters join us in the month of November on Patreon than we've ever had before.
Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely amazing. And we couldn't appreciate it more. You can also, if you want to make sort of a one-time investment in Character Crusade, you can always go to our shop, which you will find linked from our website, or you can go to shop.charactercrusade.com. We got some T-shirts. We got some other stuff there. Buy a T-shirt. We get a little bit of a commission every time that happens, and we put every penny of it to use to do crazy-ass things like this green screen stuff. So we certainly do appreciate all your support. And you know what? Finally, the very best thing that you can do is if you know somebody who you think might enjoy the content that we're producing here on our respective channels, just let them know. Send them a link and let them know that we exist, because the most rewarding thing for us is seeing new people come in who enjoy what it is we're doing. Anyways, that is it for us tonight. We want to thank you all for your attendance. We love you all so much, and we will see you on December 19th for the last podcast of 2016.